So welcome back to the Wedding Capture Co, a podcast for wedding photographers and videographers with myself, Tom, and my good pal, Chris.
Hello.
This is the first workshop This is the first episode that we have done after our workshop, which was only a week ago. So we dive into a little bit of a self kind of gratitude episode of talking about our wins from the workshop, the mammoth task that it was to build that kind of slideshow and get it over the line, and then also tease some really, really exciting news for our guest episode, which is going to launch in the next one. Yeah, I think we should just jump straight in. Obviously, it'll be very evident in a couple of weeks' time, obviously, but we're recording out of sync, aren't we?
Yeah.
And for a good reason.
Recording backwards.
So we're back kind of in the flow of recording two episodes in a day again, because we've had a little break where we haven't been, haven't we? We've been doing sort of...
Been doing our workshop planning for half a day and recording for a day. And those episodes have been really good because we've been full of beans from recording the episode. But I think for us two is better so that we can...
It definitely works. And this morning we've had a really, really lovely chat with our second ever guest, haven't we?
Yes, so we had our first videographer on the podcast.
Yeah, and also our first time of doing a podcast where the person that we're interviewing or the person on the guest isn't in the room as well.
Yeah,
that was
strange.
An experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was interesting having to work out the technical bit of like, how do I do a podcast over the air sort of thing, but we managed to work it out in the end. I feel we had some technical issues.
It's the first time I've ever looked into a teleprompter, and I felt like remarkably like showbiz in that obviously Chris has got this one fangled piece of tech where you can kind of, so that obviously the screen is kind of reflected into a teleprompter like a thing that goes over the camera, so we were able to look at the camera whilst talking to our guest and the rest of it. So
that was in theory it will look like we're doing that, won't it? Because we'll be looking at the camera.
It will be. They won't see that wizardry behind it, but hopefully when you see that episode in a couple of weeks' time,
we'll be looking at the camera.
We did that one this morning, and I think that's going to be our longest ever episode, and we dove into all sorts of things. So if we do feel a little bit kind of bedraggled and a little bit kind of tired today, we're not just lazy. It's the fact that we've done a 2-hour marathon this morning, and then this is kind of a catch up.
To be fair, with when this will be coming out and the way we have been feeling, or the way I've been feeling, specifically after the workshop, it's not that far off from the way I felt like the day after the workshop, just absolutely drained and like ready to relax.
Yeah, so the workshop was a week ago.
Yeah. So
this time, obviously we're recording this
literally this time last week.
Yeah, so you're hearing this pretty much you'll hear this on now, and we recorded this literally the day before. So you know, it's pretty much a week ago. So this time a week ago, we were about to dive into website reviews at the workshop.
Yes, we were. Yeah. So it was something that we obviously put out. Like it was quite a last minute thing for us, wasn't it? Really, we sort of planned it like 6 weeks
about that, pretty much start to finish. Yeah, from the idea's birth to it being done and here sat here now.
Yeah, we can probably spill the beans and say that when we advertised it, we had nothing.
No, we didn't.
We had an idea of what we wanted it to be about, and maybe someone would buy a ticket, and that was pretty much it. And so we put it out, just thinking, okay, let's see what happens with it, and we know that we can talk for a whole day about this subject and what we want to say. And then, sure enough, within a week, the tickets were sold out. Yeah, which then propelled us into full blown, let's get this workshop plan mode. And to be honest, it was a lot more effort than we probably thought.
Yeah, a lot more effort than I maybe had appreciated. Yeah. Or I think also again then though is once it's sold out, I think that was the top tier motivation, and it's like this is happening.
Yeah.
And then I think both of us went into that mode of it's got to be good. Like we sit here and have these conversations, every couple of weeks, and that people email us and tell us that there was some good nugget in this one, or I really enjoyed the element of that. But when people have paid like actual money to come and sit in a room and kind of you to impart wisdom on them, there's got to be more than sort of one nugget an hour coming at them. So. Yeah, but I'm not sure I fathomed the amount of, not actual just physical man hours that it would take to put together a slideshow or 2 slideshows to encompass 2 subjects to last kind of an hour each. The amount of collaboration it would take between me and you to kind of work on that independently and together at the same time, whilst thinking what the other person's probably going to put on their slide, not treading each other's toes. And then when we reconvened every few days to kind of collate our thoughts, make sure that we'd done the right thing, was good.
Well, that's difficult. Yeah, it was. We're both busy. We've both got a lot going on. We live far enough away from each other. It's not easy to pop around and just do a quick bit of thingy. So we had to schedule it in with podcast recording or the co-active meetings that we have, and we had to put together a whole presentation each, and then sort of basically chuck that in and see how it flowed with each other.
But that, I think, what surprised me as well is that, well, I feel like we know each other pretty well by now. Yeah. But how kind of harmonious that ended up being in the end. I think that when we sat down the day before the workshop and we had like a 5-hour like Zoom call, didn't we?
It looked so cohesive already, didn't it?
Yeah, and also I think in the end there were 2 slides, whereas one in each presentation, where you're like, oh, we're pretty much talking about the same thing here.
Yeah,
and that was it. And it was really quite impressive that the kind of the plans that we laid did kind of go out as planned, and on the day itself as well, like. We booked the venue, so we went to Cozy Club, didn't we, in Guildford?
Yeah.
And because I was like, I don't want a conference room. I don't want something which feels super businessy.
Yeah.
I want somewhere that has the facilities for us to show a screen.
Shout out Cozy Club, because it was a very good venue for what we wanted as well.
Yeah.
They were lovely. They showed everyone to the room. The room was huge for what we had.
Yeah.
Comfy chairs, like the vibe was perfect.
Yeah, because I'd seen a picture of it online, and they told me what it held and what they could do for us. We had a phone call with the lady from there, and. Yeah, definitely. So shout out to them. We'll definitely go back if we do another. And the fact that we had, hopefully you've seen the pictures that are on the Instagram from what we shared. Shout out to Josh as well for making those.
Yeah.
But like we had enough room. We had the screen set up, and you could almost come into your comfy chair and like sit by a little table and your comfy armchair to listen to us. And then we retired to this like really long table for dinner, didn't we? That was kind of in the window.
Yeah.
And then kind of moved back to our cozy chairs again, ready for the afternoon.
Yeah,
it was
a really good setup.
Between
and there was something about like after the first presentation was done and it was like, oh, it's time for lunch now. When we all sort of convened on that table, it went from workshop to another coactive meet. Like it was like people just hanging around, just chatting the world to rights and asking each other questions about things. And it was almost like it went from like education to community in like a second. And that was really nice. I sort of sat at that table like, everyone, like nobody here, like I mean, some people knew each other, some people didn't.
Maybe like
but everyone was having good conversation. It was like, we did this is pretty good.
Yeah, it's really nice. Obviously, there was a couple of people. Like, I'm going to shout out the people that came, so I don't think that hopefully they mind. Like I spoke to Tessa, so Tessa came to the workshop, and like she said that was the first time she'd ever been to any kind of workshop or any piece of learning ever.
And that was humbling as it was. Yeah,
it's amazing. That's incredible that
they
obviously that she saw enough value in what we're doing with this that she wanted to come and learn from us, and hopefully. I think that hopefully everybody had a really, really nice time.
Yeah.
I know that we had lots of really good feedback on the day, and people have already messaged us saying that they've implemented some of the changes that kind of and the advice that we offered.
Yeah.
And I find that terrifying and heartwarming all at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I honestly didn't know what to expect going into it in terms of how people would react.
Yeah.
I sort of expected it to be people would turn up, they'd watch you, and then be like, "Thanks, I'm going home." But like, genuinely. The response we got afterwards with like literally people come up to us like, well done, this is so good, like because they all knew it was we were quite honest like, oh, it's our first workshop, let us know how we do as well, like we know we're going to provide some good content, don't get me wrong, but it's whether like we obviously want feedback because it's our first one on like what we do, and getting that feedback at the end of like like it's really good, you guys, it looks like you do this someone said it looks like you do this all the time or you've done it before, and like it's like, oh, that is the best possible thing you can get. Definitely, really.
Yeah. And I think for me one of the biggest issues is knowing where to pitch it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I said to someone at the start, like if we feel that when we're kind of in the beginnings of this and kind of breaking down the very basics of what branding and what marketing is, if you feel that we're teaching you how to suck eggs at this point, we're like, this is your ABCs of branding, and you kind of feel like we're kind of really like treating you like you're stupid, like tell us and we'll start to move on a little bit quicker. But at the same time, we don't feel that we can talk to you about D without giving you those A, B's and C's first. And like, I didn't want people to come and go, well, I was expecting you to go so much more in depth to this bit and you didn't. And that was kind of what I came for. But at the same time, I didn't want to go super in depth on something and someone go, well, I don't even know where to begin. And you jumped in halfway through the journey. Yeah. So in that ways, I think that having that feedback at lunchtime to even someone go, no, that was perfect. Like if you can do the same as that with marketing, then we'll be golden.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few times when I jumped in with something, we're jumping in with something and being like, does everyone know what this means? And there were a few people that didn't, so you sort of had to go back. But like, that was where, like we're trying to cover everything, but you kind of flick through the basics. Because I mean, most people there were like, we checked out their stuff and they're all good at what they do anyway. I mean, everyone was good at what they do anyway. Like we weren't teaching anyone how to start up their business sort of thing. Like everyone was cracking on with their own thing. So it was a case of if we can provide some really good nuggets of information whilst also nailing in probably what they already know but don't implement.
Yeah.
Like that's also, we've spoken about this about education before. It's not all about mind-blowing moments of, oh my God, I should have done that. Sometimes it's like, actually, that makes sense. I should probably start doing this now because it makes that much difference. And if you can provide examples of like me saying, oh, you know, the example I gave of putting, of sharing a screenshot, of a wedding venue, and then that wedding venue sharing that on Instagram on a story, just literally just a screenshot of a wedding venue on a story got me a booking. Like that, just little like piece of information like that just make people think differently about what they're doing from day to day, I think.
Yeah, I think like things that said, and obviously we touch on this in the episode that you're going to hear next with our guests, is that idea of kind of affirmation sometimes, or that just kind of positively nudging that yes, I am on the right path, like kind of having that just kind of reaffirmed to you sometimes is more valuable than getting that huge knowledge bomb, isn't it? It's like, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I do actually sit at home most of the time and probably have moments of self-doubt or don't really know what works, but to know that works for somebody else who's kind of your peer, that could work for me too. And it encourages you to want to kind of be braver and try new things, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like, affirmation that what you're doing right is right. Like when I went to the Lawson Film School, it was a lot of like, oh, you know, these people, like they charge more than me. They've been in the game. They're like the top of our game, basically, of what they do. And they're doing a lot of things similar to me. And like that confidence builder is also good as well. But then we also did a website review at the end.
Yes. That was really good as well. And
that was good, yeah.
Mainly, obviously, we emailed everybody before the workshop saying that we plan to do this, and obviously that it would be in front of the other people that were coming. And for the most part, I think there was probably 2 attendees that kind of knew each other and came kind of semi kind of, you know, that they knew each other. But for the most part, the other people didn't really know each other. So the fact that you're known then that you're probably going to have your website pulled up in front of strangers and then scrutinised by the 2 people that you've paid to come on the workshop is a scary thing.
That's one of our conditions, was if you want your website shown, you kind of have to do it publicly.
Yes.
Because we did the introductions at the very beginning so that everyone got to know each other, because we didn't want just people like showing their websites and not sort of being anonymous to other people in the room. We wanted it to be like a conversation between people. We can sit there and tell you as much as you want, but that if someone else chimes in and goes, oh, I think this as well, or then it reinforces and they get help from more than just us. And
especially when it came up, there was like obviously a platform difference that I use Squarespace for my website, you use Wix for your website.
Yeah.
And like we were speaking to Phoebe, who's for the most part, her site was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and in the end, like it's really hard when you kind of look at people that are probably they are our peers.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel, well, no, you've paid me to give you this advice, and you don't want to think you're being mean.
Yeah, that's
and especially when you have someone like her site, which for the most part, like we had to really scrape it hard to find stuff. That there was one where like she'd had a series of blog posts on like a page, but then the background to that kind of element was different to the actual background of the page, and it's like it's just so small, and it was like, oh, well, I'm not sure that I can actually change that. And you were like, oh, you can, because I use Wix. And then someone else was like, oh, well, I use WordPress. And so kind of, it wasn't only the actual kind of physical making the changes, it was yes, you can do that on that platform because I use that too. And
that collaboration between people.
I like the fact that by the end of the day, a lot of people turned up probably thinking they were going to sit in their seat and listen to us talk, that everyone felt comfortable enough, not only to share their website with a bunch of strangers, but then they felt that they could give their opinions as, you know, a member of this industry as well.
But that dynamic definitely changed after dinner as well. When at dinner, everyone sort of got to know each other and stuff. And after dinner, for the marketing talk, I felt like it was much more back and forth. Yeah. Like we were sort of talking, and then people would chime in and be like, so what about this? And we'd like and I like that sort of vibe. Like it's kind of weird talking to a room of people for 2 hours and just getting silence back and not knowing, you know what I mean? Like it's sure enough, that's how it's meant, like that's how it goes. But like, it's nice to get that back and forth of, oh, if you've got a question, jump in, or just, you know, people being curious about certain elements of your presentation.
Yeah, and I think going forward, if we were to do this again, I would keep it to a very similar number for that reason. I like the fact that, really good, although it felt like at the end of the day, I definitely wanted to come home, not talk to anybody and sit in the dark. And that's coming from me that like loves to talk and meet people.
Yeah.
Is that I felt I'd spoke myself into nothing. I've lost my point.
Talking about like people being able to chime in and talk to each other.
Yeah, or the fact that keeping it of that, a group of that size. That was it. So I would keep it a kind of 6 to 8 number again, so that vibe could stay.
Yeah.
Because if we got to a point where we had 25 people that wanted to come, we'd have to run it 4 times.
Of things and
it wouldn't
people,
work. We could spend all day on like 6 slides if everybody kind of had their opinion.
Yeah.
But I like the fact in the end that when we were sat round the dinner table, that the conversation could flow across the table and everybody could kind of be part of that, because it was quite a small group.
Yeah.
And I think there was value in that intimacy.
Definitely.
That would have been lost if it had gone to like conference level vibes.
That's why I felt like it really felt like a coactive chat, because it was like a group of people who were all just in it for the same reason, just having a nice chat. And like the table is basically having the same conversation. Whereas like you say, if you then start adding people, you then get cliques of people in one corner and another corner, and yeah, like that, there was a really nice vibe to have it for that number of people, and I'm glad we did. And I think, like you say, like having a max of like 8 people going forward is probably the way forward for the way that we want to do things, like, and the way that makes it more of a community rather than us just chatting to 25 people for a day and then them all like just scooting basically. But I found the website review hard because like I actually really love doing that, because it's nice to have reference material and be able to actually give actionable things. Like, it's all well and good us sat in front of a presentation, but it's really hard when you're saying about brand and a market and to be like, do this, because you don't know what they don't do and you don't know what they do. So you just have to apply it to everyone and hope for the best. Whereas when you see people's websites, you can then you can very clearly see what they don't do or what they are thinking about, and think about like, you know, you should probably change this. But also, the other thing is it comes down to opinion.
Yes.
And there was, so a friend of ours, Sean, he came along, and I found it quite hard to, so my rule with friends, especially friends in the industry and things like that, is don't give feedback unless they've asked for it. Like, their business is their business. I'm not going to be like, mate, you should probably do this, because they haven't asked me. Do you know what I mean? And they're my mates, first and foremost. But then obviously like he bought a ticket and then came along and now I was there like having given him feedback.
And also in the end he openly said on the day, which I thought was one of the most kind of the best things about it, is he said, yes, I do know both of you, yes, I would consider you both mates, but I've bought a ticket not because I'm being nice and want to support you. I've bought a ticket because I want to dive into my branding and marketing, and I want you to give me that feedback on my site. So it was quite nice that he'd bought the ticket as a segue for us to be able to do that, rather than just feel like we were being a dick and giving him advice about his website.
It was just very strange doing it in that way. Like, I mean, like I say, Tessa was there. It's Timeless by Tessa. She's a great videographer, and like it's nice to finally get to meet her. And it was easier for me to review her website, having not known like previous things, and Alex as well, we met for the first time. So yeah, just like that was. I enjoyed that part of it, is being able to look at people's websites and hopefully provide some actionable information, you know, that people can go home and be like, right, let's do this, and hopefully that will.
Yeah, and I think there was also a perfect blend of that. There were a couple of things that we mentioned to one person that were also applicable to a couple of other people. So it wasn't as if it was everybody was kind of pulling in very different directions. There was a couple of bits, you know, kind of about where to put Instagram grids and stuff on your website, which we all had mixed opinions about and stuff. So that was kind of thing which across to a lot of people. But then there was a lot of things, like say, we'll go back to sort of Phoebe's site, where we were really nitpicking in the end, and I almost feel like I don't want to come across as just being mean, but it's like you've got to find something. Someone's paid you to offer them that advice, and like we said, most of it is, you can do it's fine. Your site's better than mine. So what do you want me to say? It's not about that, is it? It's almost looking at it, and I think if we did it again, I'd like to get to a point where I'd almost want someone to now the room to go. Well, with all that said, like pull our sites apart. Like we've talked again, and we said that, like you said, with the thing about opinions is that there's probably some of this stuff that we just don't get to ourselves, and we know we should be doing it. We're telling you to do it, but you know we're still not quite there, and none of us are perfect, are we? Like the advice that we're giving to you is what you should be doing in an absolute perfect world on these 2 subjects alone. But we appreciate that you've still got to shoot and edit and answer emails and all of the other stuff. So we're not expecting you will get to it right away. But
that's the thing. I think in one of the workshop sessions, I said to you, have a look at my website. Like, can you tell if I'm doing like the right thing? Because as we were doing this, and this has led me to all kinds of like work that I'm setting myself now. It kind of made me think like I need to be up in my game in this as well. So in the end, I sort of educated myself in a little bit of a way as well. Yeah.
And I feel like we educate each other.
Yeah,
like I think by in the order of that, feeling that pressure of having to deliver something on that subject.
Yeah.
turned the kind of magnifying glass definitely on my own brand and my own site. And I feel like in the kind of the final days of putting the workshop together, and in probably the week since now that we've had a chance to reflect on it, I think I've had probably evenings or even days where I've had literally and had sat there and had kind of conversations in my own head about, do I even know what my own brand is anymore? Do I want to change that? Or what is my work?
Like existential crisis.
Almost, yeah. In some way, which I kind of is not horrifying. That's not the right word. It's quite daunting to think that you've tried to kind of impart wisdom on other people, and it's only made yourself more confused.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time is that because we both gave so much to the workshop, like it was on my brain a lot. Probably over the week leading up to it, and even particularly like the night before.
Yeah. The headspace.
It dominated my headspace. There was room for little else.
Yeah, I remember like the day we had a call, like 2 days before we had a call, and we both said, "We've done nothing in the last few days but this," because if you sit down to edit, all you're thinking about is, "But I've got a workshop next week, I need to be planning for that."
But I think again, now that like we say maybe underestimated how much of a huge undertaking that it is, but it's all to say that I ended up with a huge sense of pride after we did it.
Yes, yeah.
Like this is probably our first real steps into kind of education.
Yeah.
And if you kind of look
we're
at
doing this with the intent of maybe having like being known by people, maybe having our names out there and being a little bit respected in the space, but like having a physical space where that gets shown is another.
That's it. Like to have like the emails that you guys send or the comments to go, "Oh, I really enjoyed listening to the pod," or, "Oh, that was really useful." Like all of those things have been really kind of good bits of like motivation to kind of validate why we're doing this and kind of what we set out. But I think anybody when they jump into a project as big as kind of something as open-ended as a podcast, like kind of had those little like, I wonder where it could lead.
Yeah.
What would it actually do? And like when we first started, like it was probably like, oh, imagine if one day we could do a workshop. And here we are just over a year that we've now delivered our first workshop.
Yeah.
And also
we're feeling good about it.
You're feeling really good about it.
Yeah,
it couldn't have done. And it's like a kind of, you just kind of, like, and maybe it's that like British thing about not kind of wanting to blow your own trumpet, but like we did good. Like I felt we did good, and I felt really good about it. And now I'm kind of like the next one can't be next week because of the brain space that it dominated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I almost feel that it would be an absolute shame for the work that we put into that, making those slideshows, and the value that the 6 people that are in the room that we had last week.
Yeah.
That's all that it ever. That's the end of the use
as far as
of
it goes. Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah.
So maybe in some sort of way, this week's episode was always going to be a shorter episode because of kind of the mammoth episode that you're going to get in a couple of weeks' time. But we wanted obviously to make this time to thank everybody that came. Say sorry to the people that wanted to come and couldn't get a ticket.
Yeah.
And also maybe say that is there a need that if for now you've seen the pictures and we've done it and we spoke about it now, that would you want to come if we ran another one?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that we've spoken about, isn't it? Is like we've got this wealth of information now that we've put into one like chunk of a day. We know that the timing works, everything works. We would easily do it again, and like it's gonna be less headspace for us, so we can probably focus on like getting it out and like marketing it and things like that, or doing a couple of days of it rather than just a one day or something like that. But in the end of the day, like we've started now, like the ball is rolling with it.
Then, this is really sad. The first thought that came into my head was like, how good was the food at Cozy Club? Imagine if we could have if we could do like 2 back to back. I'm not sure if I like that buttermilk chicken twice in 2 days though. That's it.
But it was good, and like you say, like that sense of feeling proud afterwards. I mean, I did a Instagram story on the way home. I felt knackered. I was on the way home, did stop at McDonald's, got myself a celebratory quarter pounder deluxe and a McFlurry, and I did an Instagram story. And part of it was tiredness, but part of it was just pure like happiness and being quite overwhelmed by it all. But you said to me a couple of days later, I thought you were going to cry.
It literally felt like it. Like you were sat there with your McFlurry on your lap and you were talking, and I was like, is his bottom lip?
My voice is going.
Is his bottom lip going? Yeah. And then like your voice cracked, and I was like, I'm actually going to watch a grown man cry on an Instagram story here. And the shameful thing about it was I watched that while I was waiting in my own McDonald's drive-thru on the way. I'd given my order to the dude and was waiting in the queue to pay. And so I was like, my phone in my hand ready to pay. So that I literally clicked on my stories.
Went to McDonald's
and the first thing that came up was Chris's story.
And I feel like while I didn't cry, I feel like that I don't want to get too deep about it, but that was the most fulfilled I'd felt in a while, and I felt buzzing and happy. Like you said, like, and I thought I'd be the same as you, wanting to go into a dark room, but all I wanted to do was shout about it and be like, I did this. This is like, and don't get me wrong, what we do is meant to be quite a rewarding job as it is, but. We had a conversation with Rue about it earlier, where you edit a film and then you move on, or you deliver some photos and you move on, and it's like it gets to the point where you are just being in this routine of, okay, the day's good and you feel quite hyped up by the couple and everything's amazing, but then like a lot of it you just move on. And having something that we've done for the first time, which a couple of years ago for me would have been completely out of reach, it go really well. Or like friends and people I've never met pat me on the back and go, hey, mate, you've done a cracking job. And then to be on the way home and just like thinking about all of that, like it did get me a bit emotional. I was,
and even I find it mad where someone turned up and were like, I'll listen to your episode on the way here. Yeah. And I was like, you're like, listen to us all day and you still wanted to. And even now, if someone comes up to me and goes, I really listen to the pod, that's still like I think I've been shooting weddings for long enough now that I never take gratitude from couples for granted. It still warms my heart every time someone sends me a lovely email as a couple. Yeah. But you almost expect it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to think that I'm good enough at my job now that I can make people happy. Yeah. But doing this, I still kind of, that imposter syndrome probably highlights itself far more than it maybe should. Definitely. And people come to the workshop, people talk to you and you think, well, you probably know more than I do. Like, I actually really like your work and maybe think it's better than mine. And then they come up to you and go, oh, this is great, you've done this, I learnt this. And you're like, but you're learning from me. Yeah. And that seems weird. So the fact, like I say, to have a room of like 6 to 8 people that had all kind of valued what we'd said and they kind of really, like, they paid money to come. Yeah. And I think both of that was the main motivations, like we need to give these people to feel they've walked away with the best value that they can. Like, it was really on my mind. I was like, I would hate to anyone to think that they've wasted, walked out of there, chucked their notes in the bin and gone, that's 150 quid, I'm not getting that. Yeah. And that, but then when it was people about providing that value, wasn't it? Yeah, and that people came back with that kindness beyond that of not only did they get their value, but you did really well, and I almost wanted to encourage us on kind of a friendship level. Yeah. That's, I think, what I found the most heartwarming is these people don't have to be nice to me. No. Like, they don't, in the same way that your couples, you'd like to think, I can make them a nice film regardless. I'm pretty sure everyone there listened to the pod as well, which is nice to see actual people. In real, because it's nice enough seeing numbers. Oh yeah, people listen to their pod, but like when you start seeing people like at the workshop coming like, oh yeah, listen to your pod on the way, like you said, and then speaking to Rue earlier, who's like, yeah, I think I've listened to every episode. It's like people are actually listening, and like, which really is insane, isn't it? Like, because we sit in front of each other, and to me, my audience, what goes into the microphone is you and Max, who's just wandered in and out. But then, and someone told me this a while ago when I was talking about like social media followings, and they were like, put those people in a room. Like, if you go, I've only got 2,000 followers, like, it's nothing compared to some people. Yeah. But 2,000 people in a room, look at them. We spoke to 6 people, and that was terrifying. Yeah. If you put all of my followers in front of me in a room, that's 2,000 people that you show your work to. Yeah. That's terrifying. Yeah, imagine just holding up one of your photos in front of 2,000 people and letting them react in real life. Imagine that. And how daunting that would be. Essentially, that's what you're doing. Yeah. And I never thought of it like that. And I always kind of try and keep that like in my head, that kind of that thought at the time is like, well, no, never do down your achievement of, whilst your audience may not be, it might not fill Wembley Stadium in the way that some people's do, but that's still a lot of people. Like, I'm one person that kind of shouts from my chair in my dining room into a microphone. And even to tell me, like, when we got our Wrapped thing at the end of the year, that's nice, to go that we were the top podcast for 25 people. Yeah. If you stood 25 people out there looking in through this gap while we're talking, that's still really daunting. It's pretty consistently, and the numbers show it, like, it's consistent as well. Like, people come back every other Thursday to listen, and like, that's nice that like we can be that. Because we were saying earlier about how when your favourite podcast doesn't post one week, you're like, it's gone. And we only post every 2 weeks, so it's definitely harder to keep up with, but I feel like it's something that we've been able to do pretty well. So, and I think that's it. The fact that we've managed to sustain that. Yeah. I think I feel that we should apologise that we're not weekly, and lots of people have asked us to go weekly. But I think particularly even if the workshop highlight that and nothing else, is that how easily trying to run our businesses full time so that we've got these stories to talk about and this knowledge to share.
I feel like I neglected my business while I was doing the workshop.
Definitely, we did, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, even there was a point, which is, this is, all these conversations that I had about AI and how photographers get like the rough end of the deal and this and that, is that me and Chris did 2 weddings together at the start of the year. And granted, they were his first 2 weddings of the year, but he delivered both of those videos before I delivered the galleries.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I've only just finished the second one. It's going to get delivered tomorrow. But you've already sent that film.
Yeah.
Because I neglected it. I'd culled it. It'd gone through the software. It needed tweaking. And I literally was like, nope. I know it's still in deadline. I've got for a week or 2 after. And I can't think about it. I need to think about the workshop.
I think for you, though, it's the fact that you know that if you had another one, that's still only a couple of days or whatever. Whereas I know as soon as I let it get to 3 weddings I've got to edit, that's 2 weeks of editing, 3 weeks of edit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
well, for me, that could be 4 days at most. Yeah.
So you can kind of let it build up to 2 or 3 and not have a worry on your head. Whereas there was always that feeling of beginning of the season, I want to try and keep the queue down for as long as possible. I know when I'll get back from holiday in 2 weeks' time, I've got 3 in a weekend, and that's going to be the end of it until December, or January, whenever I finish the edits, basically.
Yeah. Once it spirals fast.
And then that's it, and there's nothing you can do about it, really, because you shoot in the summer and you edit in the autumn, winter. Like, it's the natural way of things.
I feel like I've said that kind of for everything that we said, and I think that episode, which don't go back and listen to it, the one that was our end of year last year, I think ended up being far more negative than we ever managed.
Yeah, like, why was it?
I don't know. There was lots of things in there about that, and I kind of still use that kind of anguish of that episode to go, no, I'm not going to let my editing pile build up this year. And all of the things that I said in that about needing to do less and needing to kind of give more and just kind of not let things slide by. I think I'll probably use that episode now and kind of how kind of sad and broken I feel in that one.
I'm interested to hear it back and be like, right, are things on track for this year, 5 months in?
Yeah, like, maybe that's it. Maybe we think it. I'm sure people have spoken to me about it, and that they reckon that it sounded far more positive than we felt about it. But like, I felt like both of me and you needed to hug up at the end of that episode and kind of using that to go in. But definitely, I feel that, again, whilst I did neglect my business, I knew that it was up to that point, and I had to make the workshop everything that it could be.
And it was so worth it in the end.
And now that we've jumped back into our own lives and our own businesses, everything's clean, the garden's rosy again. I managed to catch up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then kind of coming around to the bigger point that I was making is that we are in this for the long game. We weren't in it for the workshop, and now it's like, we can let the pod slide now.
Crack on,
we've got some money out, some people we're going. Is that, and I said to you, I remember sending you a voice note the day after the workshop and saying that, we were mates, people that worked a few weddings together before we started doing this.
Yeah.
But now the fact that, we've come closer as friends as the podcast's gone on, and then probably got to a point where we were speaking multiple times a day on the lead up to the workshop.
Yeah.
That has been really, really lovely as well.
As friends and as workshop, like, doing the workshop as well. In one breath, it's what we're doing like for Disney plans, and in the other breath, it's
like, can you make sure you put this slide in the Dropbox? And the way that's formed, and we dive into this in the episode with Rue that you'll hear in a couple of weeks' time a lot more, but that idea of kind of forming communities and having allies and stuff like that. I love what this podcast has brought to us. And so but I also know that between how busy we both are and the rest of it, that we can't get any more than once more than a fortnight to sustain.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What it is. Yeah.
But so I'm super proud of what we've done. And it was also very nice to see, like, afterwards everyone going for a drink after, because like that again, like, when you sort of sit back and everyone's just having a drink, and like the paid for bit is done, the room is shut off, we're in the bar at this point, and everyone just wants to stay and have a chat, and you kind of like, we did this, everyone's chatting because we love.
But the nice thing was that dropped us. Then I felt completely to their level. Like when you're stood in front of people,
on that sofa with a pint, and I was like, and everyone was just watching as I sunk.
Also, as well, I knew in that moment how tired and how kind of relieved I felt. Is that I was definitely like 1 beer drunk.
Yeah, because of the tiredness.
I literally had one not very strong lager, but I'd felt like I drunk 6. I think
in the car.
It was at one point I was tempted to chuck Josh the keys because I had to drop him home. But it was just like, do you know what? Like, this is definitely. It definitely kind of sunk through me, and it was a mixture of like relief, happiness, tiredness, social exhaustion, but
Yeah.
Again, I feel like that glutton for punishment. That's just I still want more of it. I want to go back for more.
Definitely, but it's because it's rewarding. I think that's the most thing. Like I woke up this day, I took half the morning off. I took the full morning off, so half the day off, and I felt knackered about it and everything. But as soon as I recovered, I was like, worth it, just easily worth it. Like just for the feeling, and I'm proud of us. And I'm sorry if it feels like we're blowing our own trumpets in this episode, but. It's just something that we wanted to talk about and sort of debrief ourselves on. And
I think we needed to. Like I'm saying, obviously, the fact that the workshop even came about was for the fact that, for what we've built here and you guys supporting this podcast. So it was really nice to kind of meet some of you in person, have something like that, which is kind of a result of what we did, and just kind of reflections on that. So if you weren't able to make it, or you didn't even know that it happened, that now that it was out there, and we kind of want to kind of that well done to us. And definitely that if maybe there's a time, and definitely won't be in the summer, maybe in the winter or maybe the early part of next year, that we may, or I definitely would like to do another. And
I think there was always on the cards for like later on in the year, but there's Coda and things like that, so we might consider doing it beginning of next year, but we haven't decided yet. But I feel like it's happening. It's going to happen again.
It's going to happen at some point. That's it. So it just depends on how many of you badger us to go, we want this or we need this, as to how soon that happens. But especially now the content's written. But I think now that kind of you mentioned it, that Coda word came up then, didn't it?
Yeah.
Is that we should probably talk a little bit. I don't want to talk too much because the episode that you're going to hear in a couple of weeks is long enough.
It is long enough, yeah.
But I think we should say that I'm really, again, talking about goals in the podcast.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we were able to get Rue.
It's another big milestone for us. Yeah. It's like we got Rue on. It's our first videographer, first thing that we've done over the air. And it was nice to have like a proper chat about like Coda as well, which is the conference event for videographers. As soon as like it sort of started being advertised, and that I was like, we've got to get this guy on. I know he won videographer of the year and things like that, but like it was that I was kind of like everyone like he's on the map basically, isn't he?
And also
it'd be nice to get him to just talk about something which a lot of videographers are really passionate about already.
And the most thing is he said yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I still think of
away.
us as our sweet little podcast that is not very big.
We're recording in a dining room.
We literally said
one camera setup.
Sent a DM to the UK wedding videographer of the year, who has just sold out the first ever videography conference on the pre-sale.
Yeah.
Like that guy's going places in this country.
He's going things
I'm
up for it.
In our industry. And let's say the fact that he turned around then and said, yes, I listened to every episode. Yes, I really want you guys to. I really want to come on the pod. Like it's that again in that level again of like this is smack sneezing. Is that
set me off?
Yeah, my dog has hay fever. It's very sunny out there. No, he's going to go back out and roll in the grass and probably sneeze again. But the fact that someone who's I think as respected or as big a deal as Rue. The fact that he straight away was like, yes, I kind of want to come on the pod. I want to do that. And almost was kind of like, oh, it's so nice to meet you boys. And I was like, I'm not wedding videographer of the year. You are. Mate, that's it. And,
we're here for you.
Yeah, and I'm really, really excited for you guys to hear that chat.
Yeah.
All nearly 2 hours of it.
It's a long episode. We talk about his awards and like some of the like everything about the wedding industry awards. Really, we went on quite a lot about that. We went quite technical into some video stuff, which wasn't the plan at all. But when you get two videographers together, just like chatting for the first time, you go into a lot of stuff. Like, do you use this? Do you use that? And I feel like a lot of that came through. And then obviously we spoke about Coda, his reasoning behind it, and like his passion really shone through. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear about Coda.
And for any of you that don't have a ticket to Coda, we're really sorry because it's sold out. I don't think you're going to get one. I'm gutted that I haven't got one.
I've got one to sell
I'm not,
for $1,000.
And I'm not, Do you have free popcorn with it though?
I don't know.
For the cinema. So it kind of in that way, if you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did, you're going to be signing up for Coda 2025, I think, already on the pre-sale. Just really excited for that to come on. And I think again, maybe this is a little bit of a self-indulgent episode, but kind of we did good on the workshop. We got a really, really cool guest on.
Yeah.
And I feel like but again, I think we're probably going to kind of round this up here. Is that we haven't done this for the two of us. We've showed up every couple of weeks and every month and spoken to each other.
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys have listened, shared, told your friends about it, supported this podcast, given us those little nuggets of appreciation along the way, it's really given us the motivation to keep doing this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's so nice to get the messages when we get on Instagram, like, oh, really happy to listen to the podcast. It gave me this information. I've implemented this, or even just love listening to you lads on the way to the wedding or anything like that. Like, just nice to hear like real people just messaging us and being like, we appreciate it, because if we went probably a year and didn't hear back from anyone, it might make us thinking, is anyone really that bothered?
Is it really? Yeah, we just better just go to the pub instead and chat amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
But the fact that people do listen, and also it's made us say look inwardly at our own businesses, and kind of want to make changes and kind of feel that we are staying current to the things that we're saying are making a difference and do matter.
Yeah, like you've inspired me and like gave me a lot of things that I've implemented, and I hope the same.
I've learned so much about video. I feel like I have so much more of a greater respect for videographers, or an understanding of what videographers want and need when I work with one at a wedding now, that maybe I assumed before, but know from the conversations that we've had, maybe now what you actually need. I feel like I, as a photographer, can be of more use or more empathetic towards a videographer at a wedding day.
Yeah, because you're good at seeing other people's perspectives, and that's it, like, instantly, because you obviously, when you go to a wedding, you're not seeing it through a photographer's perspective. Sometimes you're seeing it through the couple's perspective as well, and knowing what they need on the day. But now you can rock up and see what a videographer needs. Or
also a lot of things that I thought videographers really liked that I did, probably realised, man, they may actually know difference. So it's quite nice to kind of go, oh, you need to do this, you need to, or kind of say, it's made, hopefully, everything better.
But equally, I am going home a lot of time going, oh, do I really need to do this? Like Tom's mentioned this, I probably should do this. Or like with the workshop, I've literally, since about 2 days after the workshop, been completely redesigning my website. I just showed you before we went on air. I was like, so I've been redesigning my website. After the workshop, I realised my copy was rubbish, and, and I probably should have been doing this, that, and the other. And like, you can overthink it, definitely. And I am an overthinker. But I feel like this is like doing this whole thing has elevated me as well as like, oh, I'm giving back, but I'm also getting.
Yeah, it's like going to a workshop every week, isn't it? And highlighting those things. And like I say, if you can see those in yourself, it'd be foolish if we didn't make changes. Because I think that's one of the biggest things, that when I take education or advice from anybody, I like to think that everybody leads from example, or kind of backs up what their opinion is. Like someone's shouting at you, go left, and they're walking right themselves, and you think, well, that doesn't make sense. So I like to think that we are doing our best on top of everything else to practice what we preach and do that.
And that's what I think, something that Rue said, and I won't go too much into it, but in the podcast with him about surrounding yourself with people who will push you higher. And again, I don't want to go too much into what he said, because it's really helpful information, but essentially like having a community of people in the industry, or even people that do what you do, to boost each other up, to call you out when maybe you're on the off track, or to go to when you're stuck on something. That's really important. And like, I know that if I have like whether it's like a ranty thing or a bit of advice, sometimes you're probably the first person I'll be like, oh mate, I've got this couple. Like,
yeah, you need a sounding board for that. And I think, and I love the fact that even by doing the workshop, you almost sat around that dinner table looking down, kind of you start to see that we're starting to form a community of our own off the back of the ramblings that come from this table. I think that's really, really nice. And I always really wanted this to be really kind of community led, although all of you guys out there listen to me and Chris talking every other week, is that it is much more of a conversation. And someone at the workshop, I can't remember who it was, said they spend a lot of time talking back to us as well while they're sat at their desk or in their car, and that we never hear. And
hello to you.
Yeah, hello to you guys. That's it. Yeah, you're doing good. I appreciate all of the things that you say. And I think that one of the last things, again, and I don't want to kind of paraphrase the stuff from Rue too much, because you will hear it all in a couple of weeks' time, is that he was saying, obviously, with Coda being sold out, that he really already is wanting to listen to his audience and see what they want out of it again. So I think maybe that's the last question that I've got for you guys before we sign off with the catchphrase, is that if there's guests that you think that we should get on, or there's topics that you think that you would like us to talk about, or you have a question, is that our DMs on our Instagram, the comments box on our Spotify, the comments thread underneath the YouTube videos, they're always open, and we do read all of them. So if you have something, somebody you'd like us to get on, or even nominate yourself and go, I'd love to come on and talk to you about something, then definitely come at us, and we'd love to make this, much more of a conversation.
yeah, we're definitely open to suggestions, and we haven't had many guests on, but it's been really fun when we have, just to have the open up conversation with them and talk about something a bit different. That's not necessarily the usual like life story stuff, really, isn't it? So yeah, just having a bit more of a community. Like when we were sat with Rui, it's like we just had a picture of him sat at the end of the table, and it looked like we were just surrounded, but it
literally felt like he was here, didn't
it? At the table, with him, didn't it? Yeah.
And for people that, again, like I watched some of his films yesterday. I've followed him online. But we'd never met on a personal level before, but we managed to sit there and have, a 2+ hour conversation. And even when we stopped recording in the end, we were still we spoke for about another half an hour. And I felt like I had like a mate there, or someone that definitely understood a lot of what we're about, and vice versa in the industry, that we probably could have spent that same again.
By the end of it, it's just like we were at the pub having a chat, talking things through. Yeah,
we descended from the workshop into the bar like we did, and it was great. So I don't want to say, if you definitely... If you are someone that listens here every week, I'm sure you'll hear that one in a couple of weeks' time. But if not, make sure you do keep an eye out. So Rue Films is going to be our next guest.
Yep. So in 2 weeks' time, look out for that episode.
And then until then, just again, more big thank yous to everyone that came to the workshop, everyone that listens to us, and I'm also going to say thank you to you for doing this with me. Yeah.
Oh. You make me blush. No, I really appreciate it, and thank you as well. Like I say, it's been a really cool experience. I'm really glad we're doing it, and we're in it for the long run.
There we are. It's it. It's definitely a marathon. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. So
sweet. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.